Okay, well, I just started broadcast. Hopefully you can still join. I think you can.
Hang tight for 1 minute.
I'm tired. Holy crap.
Me too.
Yeah. Hopefully we go fast tonight. I'm going to try to be brief in my explanations.
I think we usually go over. So I think it'll all even out.
Yeah.
A little brief. Come on.
My house went under contract this weekend, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm due to move in a month.
That's always fun, right around the holidays.
I know.
Around the holidays.
Yeah, I've never done that before, but this is my first time selling a home. We'll see.
Better than moving in the summer.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it was a little bit less competitive, so yeah, that was good. But it also gave me a little bit longer wait time on getting an offer too. So I don't know. We'll see.
I say, let's see. Should we just go ahead and get started and have them jump in when they?
Yeah.
I think so. Okay. So hello everyone, good evening. And it looks like we're gonna go ahead and start with a prayer. So does anyone want to offer a prayer?
I'll say it.
Okay.
Our dear kind gracious Father in heaven, we are grateful for this day and grateful for the opportunity that we can meet as a group, and we pray for thy spirit that we be able to discuss and do what thou would have us do. And we love thee and say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, so it looks like we have a couple of questions to discuss. So I'm going to start with a brief overview of the case study. So we learned about the kind of rise and fall of Lance Armstrong. So he was born in 1971 in Texas to a teenage mother. He became a triathlete in his teen years and young adult years, and then he turned to professional cycling. His career was halted by testicular cancer. He returned as a team leader for USPS and then founded the Lance Armstrong Foundation and the Live Strong campaign with iconic bracelets, the wraps. He won a record 7 consecutive Tour de France races beginning in 1999, and then he and his teammates participated in illegal doping. He was stripped of his titles in 2012, and he did not admit to doping until 2013 after denying the practice for many, many years. Does that sound about right?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
So it looks like we're going to focus on a few questions. So first, what is Armstrong's legacy? And I put that he was looked at, ultimately he was looked at for inspiration, but he risked everything, including his teammates' reputation, just to win, and now he really hasn't left anything behind except shame. So that's what I got out of his legacy. He really destroyed it and all the people that counted on him. And he was given very many natural talents and abilities even without doping. So he did have the opportunity, before his illness to experience success. And that's where I kind of felt he failed. He started relying on other means. Anyone else have thoughts on this question?
I think you're right on. I think when people think of the last name Armstrong, I think, they still think, oh, great guy, did great things, but it's like, oh, doping.
Yeah.
So just automatic thinking of the negative as well. So he kind of stained his brand there, his name. So
I like what you used there, Tegan. It's exactly, there's a stain on it, and it's forever tainted, and it's sad because his foundation has done a lot of good work.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It's funny reading the article. Like, I knew he had doped. I didn't realize how bad of a guy he had become.
Right.
Like, reading the article, I'm like where he like threatened people, and like he basically made people on his team dope, and then
Right.
he kind of threw them under the bus when he felt like they were no longer. I don't know. It kind of opened my eyes. I had no idea.
Very good thoughts on that. I was going to say, you brought to mind the incident where they were, I guess this was after everything had fallen apart, and they were having a verbal argument when they were away training at this other, one of his former teammates. I don't know if you remember that, but I'm thinking, he's going, I'm going to sue you, I'm going to ruin you, no one's going to know your name, that sort of. I had no idea he had that sort of character. So
Yeah.
you're right on. I had, this gave a little bit more insight than I even knew about the guy. It looks like Oliver. Hi.
Hi everyone. Nice meeting you.
We went ahead and got started, but we're only on the first question. So we're going to move along here. I think everyone captured it pretty spot on, talking about Armstrong's legacy, unless you have any thoughts on this, Oliver. So do you know
Sorry.
the first question answered with our...
You're like cutting off. I don't know if you can hear me.
So Oliver, we're only on the first question. So what is Armstrong's legacy?
Oh.
Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, shame on him. Like, as the title says, the biggest cheating in U.S. sports. So, I mean, we can learn a lot. I mean, if we can go by the bad side, there's a lot like that we could learn. We can learn like in the bad side, but we can also learn from his experience. Like, because he ended up, like recognizing and accepting all his mistakes, that's the most important thing, obviously.
Right. Good. I think we're all on the same page on this. So the next question is, Armstrong organized and led what was perhaps the most sophisticated and comprehensive cheating programs in the history of sports? Who suffered from his cheating, and what were the costs? So, Tegan, do you have any thoughts? What was your answer on this question?
Sure. I think, initially thinking about who suffered from his cheating, I think everybody did, especially himself. But the two initial groups I thought of was himself and his team, who really suffered from his cheating and his doping, and whatnot. And what did it cost? I mean, it cost him and them everything. I mean, just cost him everything. So it really did. A lot suffered from that, and his fans, people who, even I think, the foundations he had created, I think about how much that would have suffered once all this came about and came out into the light, how much that really, would affect that, especially, if you were buying his wristbands, for example,
right,
like what a halt in sales for, that would have caused. And just a lot of things, I think, but mainly himself and his team and everything his name stood for is what suffered and were the costs.
I absolutely agree with that. I think you're spot on. He didn't single any one person that he damaged. He had several people depending on him. So I completely agree with you. Oliver, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yep, I totally agree. So he basically, we can speak of different times. He affected his team while he was there, and we can talk about these times. He affected the sport for the good, I would say, because obviously they do have more, like new policies. They do more doping exams. Like things are more regulated. So for the own good, for the good of the sport, like things change as well. So
That's an excellent point.
affected, yeah, affected.
I think we lost you there. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I have a cheap plan, so sorry.
No worries. No, I think you're spot on. I hadn't thought of it in that way. So maybe, it was a very bad example to other people, but help them to make it better for others in the future. So I think that's a good point. Liz, what
Yeah,
are your
it's
on that? Are you cutting?
On like how he affected. I guess which question? I'm sorry.
So who do you believe suffered from his cheating and what were the costs?
Okay. Um. Gosh, I think all of his fans. I think his team. I think his family, himself. Pretty much anybody and everybody that he had any network or connection to, I think suffered from it. Especially, and even the people that like the Nike or whoever he represented, that would be that could be pretty damaging to a company if he was their spokesman and then comes out as a cheater. Then they've got to recreate their image and all their branding that they've done. They have to kind of say, oh, just kidding, we've got to create a whole new person. But or like being his kid, something like that, that would be pretty devastating. Or his wife. I mean, at least his teammates could, they could say, well, he made me do it or whatever, and they had a choice to an extent. But if you're a family member or the sports people, like, there's not much they could do. I think there were a lot of people that suffered.
I agree. So next question, were the other riders, Hamilton and Landis, and those others who testified, too loyal to Armstrong or not loyal enough? I had answered that I thought that they were too loyal. The portion of the article where they described the doping in the hotel, where they're all staying together, doing it together frequently, it seems a little bit more than one employee would be willing to do for a basic job, if that makes any sense. It seems pretty extreme. So, and then beyond that, they did cover for him for years. And until it started to come under scrutiny, did they even come forward about it? So I'd say they were too low. I believe it was Hamilton who even gave up his own aspirations when they started to surpass him a little bit in the races. So I think there was a lot of loyalty. Does anyone agree? Or does anyone?
Nope, we're good.
No, you guys agree with that? I thought we'd have one person in the crowd that would think that they weren't loyal enough.
Hey, John.
Hello. Well, I just think it's how you define loyalty, really. I mean, in one aspect, like you were saying, I think they were way too loyal to him, and that they didn't make it right sooner. But then in that same aspect, because they didn't do that, and if they really considered themselves true friends or true teammates or however you want to say that, then you could also say on the other hand, okay, they weren't loyal enough because a true friend would not let someone go down that road, and if they were, they would try to do what they could to stop it. And so I think it's both sides of the coin. I think they were too loyal and then not loyal enough. So I think you could argue it both ways. And so
Yep, so I agree. So you can, there was a benefit and they were loyal to that. So when the benefit was not there anymore, they didn't need to be loyal. So and that's when they come up with all these things.
Good point, Oliver. That's different way of looking at it than I thought. I like that. So when the benefit went away, all of a sudden their loyalty went away. I agree with that. And good thoughts, Tegan.
Yeah.
And we'll move on to the next question here. I think we're all in a general consensus, unless someone has any thoughts on that question. Anybody else? Okay. So the next question was, think about a situation where you witnessed a leader, formal, make a decision for others that made you feel uncomfortable. What was the situation and how did you feel about it? I'll share my experience. So I witnessed a leader that they decided they were going to lay off individuals based on, so they were going to put the work on a new employee. And this was just collectively, this was a decision that was made not to benefit the company. So they went ahead and laid off employees based off of who cost the most amount of money. And then they turned around and gave their work to newer employees. And then the company ended up suffering, and that manager ended up giving himself a raise and cutting into the sales for the year. So it was a self-serving, improper decision. And I know a couple of people tried to warn him against it, but ultimately he ended up not only hurting those people that he laid off, but he also ended up hurting the organization, who ended up really good people. So that's the only thing I can think of close enough to this. And then as far as about it, it really changed my idea of the leadership in the company, that they would allow something like this to happen to make one person happy. They would lay off 5 people. So I thought that was a little bit short-sighted and serving. And I definitely started looking for a different job after that, realizing people are that expendable. Did anyone else have an experience to share?
I do. That's what I understand now why I was laid off on my job then. That's why I sales. I'm good at sales, and I was doing sales, but as you say, sales guys are like recyclable people. So they have a cycle of probably 2 to 3 years, at least in my country. And I was the one, out of 9 people, I was the one that was making more money of everyone. Like I was doing like sales and collecting the money back of those sales, and I was doing pretty well. I was making good money, but like 2 years later, they just laid me off, and I never questioned anything. I just walked away, but I was hurt, as you say, and I was like, why? If I'm the apparently the guy they have so far, why are they laying me off? That makes sense. Thank you. I just realized now.
You're making too much money. No. I work for multiple corporations that have salespeople, and I'll tell you, the good ones reward people based on a percentage. The bad ones will churn salespeople out like they're not even human. Okay, well, he's experienced a burnout this month. Let's go ahead and, let's put all our efforts into this new person. Let's not build a contingency plan. So, okay. Good observation. Tegan, did you have any thoughts on this?
I didn't. No, I didn't really.
Okay.
Nothing that I can't add that you guys have already said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jonathan, can you share
I don't do sales.
I don't do sales. Be really, really hungry if you do sales. Jonathan, can you share your experience with that question?
Yeah, well, I was in Mexico. I was working for the Lego company, the one who they make the toys. So I was working there, and our leader or our manager decided in Halloween to wear some wigs for all the team. Some funny wigs and stuff that I don't know. I never used those things, and I felt super uncomfortable using it. And we didn't lose money or something like that. But me and other people in the team, we were like 15 in the team. We didn't feel very good, but we feel kind of forced to do that. And I don't know, it just was just a bad situation. I didn't feel very good, and we needed to use that for the whole how's it called, the whole day. So that's the only thing I can think of.
No, it's a good addition. Sometimes people, whether personal life or do things that they're not thinking of what other people will what other people will get out of the situation they're creating, and they aren't thinking about definitely not the ramifications later on. So I think that's a good observation. It's really about being sensitive to what other people want out of a healthy work environment. I absolutely agree with you there. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question here. So think about a situation where you witnessed talented followers follow a leader into an uncomfortable or bad zone. What was the situation? What were the results? And did anybody object? Liz, what was your answer on this question?
Can you say it one more time? You're cutting out stuff that I missed a little bit. I'm sorry.
Sure. So it was, think about a situation where you witness talented followers follow a leader into an uncomfortable or bad zone. What was the situation? What were the results? And did anybody object?
Okay. So I didn't have a super good example of this, but I have seen it with like friends a lot. Like maybe not as much now, but I feel like high school had a lot of examples of that, where somebody was kind of a leader and they could get their peers to do just about anything and be like, hey, let's go do this, even though they didn't necessarily want to do it and they knew better, but they would go do it just because the leader suggested it. That I know it's not a great example, but that's what came to mind for me.
Oh, good. Good. I think we see that more times than not. I've seen that in several situations, not just at work. You get that one person. Keegan, what were your did you have an experience that you could share on this question?
One of the main things I was thinking about too was just peer pressure and things, but a situation where I've witnessed people follow a leader, I mean, into a bad situation. I think a lot of the times with when I was on my mission, you'd watch individuals, and I mean, this is just kind of applies and this kind of doesn't, kind of back to what Liz said about peer pressure. But I mean, people are followers. There's very few people in the world who are leaders, and a lot of people like to follow, and they'll take whatever route is the easiest, and the river will cut through whatever has the least resistance. And whether it be in high school or whether it be people trying to make decisions in their lives or whether people trying to follow and work. I remember one time working that there was an individual trying to get people to steal a few items, because it would be funny or something, what stupid like that. And it never is. And some people follow and some people don't. And, the ones who do, and you always get caught. You always get in trouble. You always get found. And, and it really sucks for them, and so I don't know if any of that makes sense, but I'm just.
No, it does. It definitely does. Jonathan or Oliver, did you have any thoughts on any of the answers, or did you have a situation to share?
Yep, I agree with you. Basically, one thing that I've learned is that we do things in groups that we wouldn't do alone. So when it comes to groups, I'm just afraid of things because anything can happen. We can easily do dumb things than if we were alone. So that's why. Well, I mean, it's tough because you're supposed to be social. You have to be friend. You have to have friends,
Mm-hmm.
but there's always one in any group that will try to do something dumb and will try to the others to follow him. And some people may argue that we have good and bad leaders, because we, like Nephi, he was a good leader, but Laman and Lemuel, they were bad leaders because they were, people were following them. Some people don't call them leaders, bad people, but I would say you got good leaders and bad leaders. And as Tegan said, we follow whatever we want to follow. So
Right. There comes a point, and this kind of ties in a little bit to my situation. I had a leader that was making unethical decisions and coaching us to do the same thing. And then I know it's down to, do I keep going along with it, or do I say something? And I chose to transfer departments instead of addressing it. It was definitely not ethical. It was definitely against everything I had learned in human resources. And instead of standing up, I worried more about my job because I was younger, and it was harder to find a position like that. But in the end, I felt like I kind of gave away a lot of my integrity by letting it go on. Years later, he has been let go, but in the process, I come across 8 separated employees that were actually very good employees that lost their position under his leadership.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, and I feel pretty bad because I didn't speak up sooner. Someone finally had the courage to speak up, and they removed him. But again, at the time, it came down to, do I go along with them? And I kind of stuck my head in the sand here and changed departments. Hindsight is 2020. If I had to do it again, I would probably stand up. I would find, now that I'm older and I have better tools, I would have found the right way to report what was going on. So, yeah, I think we can all be. He was very charismatic, though, and had a lot of followers, and that's kind of where it became a difficult gray area of, can I say something, or are they going to say that I'm crazy? So, any other thoughts on this, or do we all think we can come to a consensus?
well, yeah, those people, they need to be charismatic. They need to be people. Otherwise, they won't have like Lucifer. Otherwise, he wouldn't have like that many followers. But just
Right.
be careful.
Yeah.
Does anyone follow this person? But then you realize, oh wow, they're really good at this. Yeah. Good thought, Oliver. So the next question: what basic principles guide your integrity? Are there times when there is a gray area? And how do you choose correctly?
So in this one, I was thinking about principles that we as members of the church, we are doing our best to live, like honesty, um, responsibility, hard work, charity. So it is. We are not perfect, obviously, and we need to live these principles 100%. Yeah, there are times when I think, or when I think that there are gray areas, and it's kind of difficult to be 100% obedient to these principles, so the principles I need to live. So what I do to choose correctly is always ask for advice to my parents, to my wife, and I always pray to know what to do when I don't see the right answer so clear.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I, sorry for
No,
jumping in.
I was gonna say, go ahead.
I think most of the time things are kind of black and white, but there are times where it's a little confusing. And for me, I really like to talk it out with multiple people. So I talk one on one and say, "Hey, here's the situation," and then I like to hear their side. Like, how do they see it? What do they think is the right action and why? Because that always opens my eyes up to to other other paradigms basically, like what we learned in our book, and it um, that helps me a lot so that I can see from different sides of things, and I feel like I understand the whole picture better, and then I can decide how to act.
I like that, talking it out with multiple people. That's a good observation. I'd say I do similar things. When I get into that gray area, I do, and I also put this on the discussion board, but I do try to think, if I make this decision, if it was published publicly right now, if everyone could see this, could I live with it? And if I couldn't live with it, then I rethink it a little bit. Or maybe find a good middle ground, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of gray area in life, I feel like. But Oliver, was it Oliver or was it Jonathan who was saying earlier, when you really don't know, stopping to pray is a very good way to approach things. I've come across that in my life several times, where you kind of need to get to the other side of the bridge. Tegan, do you have an on this question?
Of what guides? I think, with, what kind of guides your integrity. And, I think this, just to echo everybody else, I think everyone just really hit it right on. But, there are some gray areas, but just what you were saying there, I can't think of how to say it. If people are looking at you, would you act differently? Do you act differently when I think of integrity? Do you act differently behind a locked, closed door? Is there only things you do behind a locked, closed door that you wouldn't do in front of anybody else? And so when I think about integrity and gray areas, I always think about, I don't remember who said it, but you put someone in a circle and you tell them not to leave, they'll leave. But if you get them to swear and give you their word they won't leave, they'll never leave the circle. And I just think about that a lot. At least I try to have that guide my life. So
Good.
always do what you say.
Yeah.
It made me think of one of my most favorite places I've ever worked. Super awesome boss. It was a construction company, but he would say, company motto is "Do the right thing even when nobody's looking," and they really lived by it. And it felt good to wake up and go to work every day. And then I kind of thought about that, applying that to my own life. So, good observations, everybody. Lastly, let's move on to the last question here. Let's see. How will you personally measure life? How will you measure success? So it's a two-part question here.
Just kind of going off, I think Armstrong, since this is all kind of based on him, I think he was kind of basing his success off what he could get for himself, how he could better his career, and that ended up going through doping. But at least for me, and at least as trying to be members of the church, I think we try to measure success, or at least we should, by people we help and lifting others up versus trying to lift ourselves up. And I think when we do that, when we lift others up and seek to help others, we then in turn lift ourselves up and build ourselves up and all those good things. So at least for me, I try to do that way. And I think we all probably do. And sometimes we do better some days than we do other days, but that's just life. So
We can just keep trying, right? Nobody's perfect here.
So I really like on the article from Brother Christensen when he talks about the third question he usually asks, like, or principle, whatever you want to call it. Just make sure to stay out of jail. So many people, we never plan to go to the jail, right? So but the small things that we do every day, the things we watch, the words we speak, the activities we are part of, like those like small things that we do every day contribute to a future event. So basically, like we don't plan to be dishonest, we don't plan to be unclean at all. It just happened. The worst thing that we can think of is that it can happen to everyone but not to me, and that's one of the biggest mistakes that I've learned. It can happen to anyone. It can be you today, it can be me tomorrow. So it's just about the simple things. I guess sometimes we don't pray, or we don't read our scriptures because we don't think those things are gonna make a difference in our life, but they do make a difference. So that's important.
I agree. It's I think back to I don't know if any of you went through the pathway program. So
I did.
You guys went through it?
Yep, I did.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Well, I think about, did anyone do the rock activity? No.
Like filling a bottle with like all the rocks and sand.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? So
I remember that. That was 3 years ago, but yeah, I still remember it.
So Tegan, are you familiar with this concept?
yes.
Okay. So that's what I was thinking of. So picking those things that matter most to you, and then where the rest falls, it just has to fall. I can think back to a couple years before Pathway. So I'm gonna sum my answer up to this question as quickly as possible here. I'm gonna measure my success by my family's happiness and how we're progressing as a unit, because I'd say a couple of years before that, I was narrowly focused on career, sleep, career, sleep, and then where family falls, it falls. And nobody was happy. Husband was not happy picking up the slack. I was working a lot of hours. The kids were not happy. It was really just, and I was so narrowly focused on, if everybody could just be happy at home, then I could do good at work. And that's not how it works. It's, you have to feed it and you have to really put it first. So I would say I did a 180. I cut down my hours. We started having family time. We started doing everything that we need to do. When the clock said 5 o'clock, I went home. No matter how far along I was. And I didn't suffer as an employee. Instead, I was more balanced and I did better. And I think that it was a valuable lesson while my kids were so young. And I think long term, that's really how I'm going to look back and measure my success. It's on the right things. Did anyone else have answers to that one?
Yeah, I think the question is how I personally measure my life, and I was thinking that happiness is is what I consider the most. So if I am happy, I think that I'm doing good. If I am happy with the goals I have, what I'm achieving, and the way I treat others, and I receive well, I have a relationship with others. That's the way I measure how I am going being successful or not. If I feel happy, I'm being successful. If I not, I need things to change to uh, to be better.
I agree. And would you say that you have certain things in place that help you? Like, do you have what helps you balance your life?
So yeah, well, what I try to do is, well, there are a lot of aspects. Like I try to take care of my health. I try to have a good relationship with my family, and I try to have a very good relationship with God. Um, if I do this essential stuff, and I feel good physically, spiritually, and if I have a good relationship with my parents and my wife, that's the way I measure it. You know.
That's good.
I want to share something that I learned about balance. And there is a video from Elder David Bettner that talks about balance. He says that like this word like balance that doesn't really exist, because if I'm with you right now, by definition, I'm neglecting my family, I'm neglecting church, I'm neglecting my job, whatever else I could be doing. If I'm at work, by definition, I'm neglecting my family, I'm neglecting school or church. So this like balance, uh, sometimes we speak a lot about balance in our lives, but we don't get to have balance actually, because we're doing one thing or doing the other. So it's just about priority sometimes, like it's about quality time, it's about priorities and those things that, sometimes we try to have in balance, but it doesn't really happen. So
Okay.
just having that knowledge gives us some, hope that, having the right perspective will help us.
It's good. I think I'm bringing it back around to something that Tegan said earlier. I think Lance Armstrong, and I'm sure he definitely regrets it now, of course, that all he was focused on is measuring his success by cycling. That was his life. I mean, he neglected his health, to make it happen. Like we're talking about those priorities and balances, he neglected several factors in his life, his teammates, to make what he needed happen. So I kind of feel that way. Tegan, did you have any thoughts on this or?
No, not anything else that I already did. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about it a little earlier, but I think we're all pretty much in general consensus on all of these questions. Are there any other thoughts to add?
No, not for me.
Okay. Well, it doesn't have anything else for us to discuss here on the guide, unless anyone has something they want to talk about.
No, I just want to thank you guys for accepting me just like that. So I was meeting with the other group on Tuesdays, but Tuesday my workload is so big, so I had to change that. And I thought that I was going to meet on Fridays, but I'm glad that I'm meeting with you, Jonathan. Gracias por su ayuda, amigo, y thank you to all of you.
You're welcome.
One more thing before we all go. It is Thanksgiving next week, on the 22nd. We usually meet on Thursday. So what does everyone's schedule look like? Are there better days?
For me,
I
it is
can do
better.
today
Sorry,
or Fridays. Sorry.
Fridays.
Fridays?
I can do Friday or Wednesday.
Okay. I was gonna say Tuesday, but I think I could make Friday work.
You know that's our big shopping day, right, guys?
The
Come
Black
on.
Friday. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if we have to, we could even divide into 2 groups for 1 week.
No, I say I can do Friday. That's easy because we meet in the evening time, right?
Yeah. Right.
We can do it Thursday. What about today? The same as today.
So I don't know if I'll be on the road or not.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. Sorry. I'm not from here. That's why.
It's not your fault.
Yeah.
I'll be in a turkey coma by then.
Yeah. I'm sorry. No, so definitely not Thursday or Friday. Let's make it work on Wednesday then.
If possible, I can make Friday work too. If that's not a. Liz, did you say Wednesday was out
I'll try to make anything work. So.
Which works better for you? Friday works better for me than Wednesday, but it's up to you guys.
We can do Wednesday.
Friday.
We can do Wednesday. Oh, Friday? Okay.
So it's Friday.
No,
Okay.
Next Friday.
Friday.
I'll send out the group invite next Friday, and I'll lead again because I owe. Unless
So if you need me to be the.
Oh, he freezed.
That's
I'll
funny.
follow up with Oliver. I'm willing to lead unless Oliver wants to lead.
Okay, sounds good then, my friends.
Okay.
Yeah, let me know if you need my help any week to be a leader.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Oliver, do you want here? I'll stop the broadcast.
Maybe it'll